Today, I'm going to show you how to set up Claude correctly. It will take about 5 minutes, but if you're a real estate agent who wants to use Claude in your business, this is the video you're going to want to watch. My name is Tyler, and I closed 83 deals last year as a solo agent, and that wouldn't be possible without using Claude. In this video, the first thing we're going to learn about are the various plans that are offered. There's a free plan, a pro plan, and a max plan, and we'll go through which one is right for you. Then we're going to look at two settings to turn on. One is going to be memory, and the other thing is going to be connectors, which will allow Claude to interact with other apps that you might use. Then we're going to create a project. Basically, a project is just an area where Claude is able to understand instructions and also learn about your business. That way, it can give you the most accurate responses. And finally, we're going to learn what makes a good prompt versus a bad prompt. Let's jump right in. Let's talk about pricing. So Claude currently offers 3 different tiers. They have a free tier, a pro tier, and a max tier. We're really going to be focused on comparing the free tier to the pro tier because most real estate agents will never really have to upgrade to max, even if you're using Claude all day long. The main difference between the free tier and the pro tier is that Pro gives you access to Claude Code, Cowork, and Claude Design. We can do everything just based on the free tier, but in future videos, you're definitely going to want to upgrade because Claude Cowork, Code, and Design are really powerful tools. The Pro plan starts at $17 per month if you get an annual subscription, or you can just pay $20 per month with no contract. For the purposes of this video, you can do everything we're about to do on the free tier. So let's start there, and we can always upgrade later in the future. The next thing it's going to ask you is, do you want to download the desktop app? You can use Claude within your favorite browser, whether that be Safari or Google Chrome, but I always recommend downloading the desktop app because it's going to be a lot more powerful. And some of the different features like Cowork and Claude Code work much better if you have the desktop app than using it on your web browser. So we're going to install the desktop app and download it onto our computer. Once you've hit the download button, the next step is to drag the Claude app into your applications folder, and there you go. Claude is now going to download to your computer. Now that we've downloaded Claude to our computer, Claude is going to ask us to create an account. So we're going to enter our email here. Then it will send a verification code to your email that you'll have to accept, and we're in. So we're going to agree to the terms of service and create our account. Okay, we've created our account. The next step is to continue the onboarding process. We're going to continue with the free plan. And then we don't have to keep this toggled on. It's up to you. But basically, this allows Claude to improve their models using chats and coding sessions. So you can turn that off if you'd like. I'm going to turn it off. And then we're going to enter our name here. It's going to ask what type of work do you do? And they don't have an option for real estate agent. So we'll just click other. And then it's going to ask you why you're using Claude. What are you interested in doing? So we're just going to say that we have our own topic here. And this is what the onboarding process will look like. The first thing that I want you to do is navigate over here to the settings. And we're going to make sure that memory at the very bottom is toggled on. This will allow Claude to build a memory bank based on the chats that you're having with it. That way, over time, it will get more and more familiar with your business, and it will be able to provide even more direct answers to you. The other thing I want you to be aware of is connectors. So connectors are a way for Claude to interact with other apps that you're using every day, like Gmail, for example, or your Google Drive. The thing that I use all the time is my Google Calendar. I pretty much live or die by my calendar. So I'm going to connect my Google Calendar to Claude as well as a connector. And then depending on what CRM you use, you could also connect it. Currently, Claude has support for Zoho, as well as a few others like Attio. They don't have any real estate specific CRMs that are currently connectors like Follow Up Boss, but those might be coming in the future. The other thing we're going to be learning on this channel are skills. That is a video for another day, but essentially a skill allows you to do the same type of task over and over again without having to create a prompt every time. So now that the settings are correct, the next thing we're going to do is navigate to projects on the left-hand side and create a new project. A project is essentially where everything is going to be stored. So for the purposes of this video, I'm going to name it after my real estate brokerage. And what am I trying to achieve? I am trying to automate the back-end processes for my real estate brokerage. Now that we've set up our first project, the next thing we have to do is give Claude some instructions. This is important because think about it if you just hired a really talented, very smart assistant, but you didn't give them any sort of onboarding, no training at all. How good of a job do you really think they're going to do? And the same is true with AI. So in this part, we really want to be as precise and descriptive as possible and give Claude enough information where they can really make the most out of it. So the first thing we're going to do is tell it the role that we want it to take. We're saying that Claude is a world-class expert, but we're also saying that if they don't know the answer to something, do not make it up, right? We don't want AI to hallucinate or make up facts that aren't really true. And I'm telling it, if it doesn't know the answer, just tell me. The next thing I'm saying is never praise any of my questions. If I'm wrong, say so immediately, push back at some of my questions, and don't just agree with me, which is the issue that I feel like a lot of people have with AI. Other folks that I've spoken to says, oh, I don't like using it because it just always is a yes man. And sometimes I really want it to tell me the truth. Then I'm giving it a bit of context about who I am as a real estate broker, my background, and what I stand for. After that, we're giving it my contact information and also a couple of resources that it's going to be using. From there, we're telling it a couple of norms in the Tennessee real estate transaction process. And then finally, we're going into the style of emails that I want it to write and also the style of listing descriptions that I want as well. And then I paste in a couple of examples of descriptions that I've previously written. That way it can start to learn my tone and the writing style that I like. So we'll go ahead and paste this into the instructions here and save. The other thing that we're going to do is take a look at the memory here. Because this is a brand new account, Claude doesn't have any memory, but it will build up memory over time as I continue to chat with it. If we want to get a little bit of a leg up, we could compose a memory file and also include that in the chat here. So what I'm going to do is I've already created this file, Felix Holmes Project Memory. Again, very much the same stuff that went into the instructions, but giving it a bit of knowledge here about the transaction process in Tennessee, my contacts, the real estate knowledge that I wanted to have, as well as my email style. So I'm going to chat in here and say, update the project memory with the following. We're going to give it a minute to think here. Fast forward a minute and it says project memory is updated with 7 entries. If we go back to our project, here you'll see project memory, which will be shown after a couple of chats. It still hasn't updated in this dashboard. But if I ask Claude, do you have memory about this project? Just to confirm, and here's what it has. So we've achieved that. Now that we've confirmed Claude has memory about Felix Homes and the project, we're going to have it write a listing description. And this is really important because we're going to show what makes a good prompt versus a very lazy prompt. So in the lazy prompt, I'm just going to say, write a listing description for 1539 Abbotsford Drive. And let's give it a couple minutes here and see what it comes up with. So in this example, I'm not giving it any context whatsoever about the house or the area. I'm just saying, write a listing description. It's saying that I will need some information first. So we're going to confirm bedrooms, bathrooms, and square footage. We're also going to confirm the key upgrades, your standout features. This lazy prompt perfectly illustrates why it's so important to add instructions to your project. We told Claude in the instructions that if it didn't know the answer to something, instead of making it up, I wanted to ask me, the agent, for additional context. And that's exactly what it's done here. It said, hey, I don't really know all the information about this house. And so instead of making things up, can you confirm these items? That way I can go ahead and write a great listing description for you. Because writing a listing description is something that we're going to do again and again in the future, I want to make sure I'm not starting at square one each time. So instead, what I've come up with is a prompt template. This is me telling Claude, hey, this is a pretty repetitive task that we're going to be doing again in the future. And so I want you to use this template each time we go ahead and write a listing description. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to say, please use this template in the future whenever I ask you to write a listing description. We'll hit enter and it saved it. So from now on, whenever I ask Claude to write a listing description, here are the details that it will ask me for. Now, I've already pre-filled this template with the information that I have about the listing that I'm going to be bringing to the market, 1539 Abbotsford Road. I filled out the address. I don't yet have an MLS link, so I'm left that blank, but I've written down any key features that I wanted to highlight, and these are pretty extensive. This home in particular was one that went through extensive renovations, and so I want to make sure that Claude has all the information possible to write the best description. I'm also telling it that I'm going to include a PDF of some features that I wanted to highlight, in addition to listing them out here. Anything that I want it to de-emphasize, in this case, I don't want it to bring up the smaller lot size because a lot of homes in this area do have a larger lot. I'm telling it what attachments I have. So I'm going to upload a draft listing PDF. I'm going to upload a couple of photos that I wanted to look at, as well as some owner provided upgrades and a letter that they've written to future buyers. Last but not least, we are going to add a couple of photos of the property. Typically, what I like to do is just add a couple of photos of the standout features. In my case, that's going to be the living room, the kitchen, the dining room, and the primary bedroom. This will give Claude information about some of the different upgrades and highlights that I'd like to go over, but be sure to include whatever standout features your listing has, including the yard. So we'll upload those. And then what we'll do is click on the enter button and see what description it comes up with this time. I'm expecting that it's going to be a lot better, but keep in mind, you still may need to refine it a little bit. This one may not be perfect, and that's okay, but this is going to be a really good first draft that we can then work on to continue to refine. Here's the description. This one is in my target range. It's about 1,800 characters long. So overall, I would say this description right now is a 9 out of 10. There are a couple things that I'll do to refine it. And in order to do that, I can just very easily say what I like and don't like about this description. So for example, I'm going to say this feels a bit off and with a stronger call to action, such as book your showing today. And it will think for a second and let's see what it comes back at. So it changed it up to every major system has been replaced. I'm pretty happy with that description. So that's the foundation. We picked a plan, made sure memory was on, and briefly touched on connectors. Plus, we created our first project and updated the project instructions so that Claude has context around our business. Every automation I show you from here on out sits on top of this foundation. The AI was never the problem, and now your setup isn't either. I've included the exact project instructions and the listing prompt free in the description below. If this setup was useful, subscribe, because next I'm going to show you how to actually talk to Claude so it nails what you want in the very first try. And if there's a task in your real estate business you wish AI could take off your plate, drop it in the comments below and I'll make a video about it. See you next time.